What happens when a broken system leaves people feeling powerless? Can individuals take matters into their own hands, or should we expect those in power to do the right thing? Today, we're looking at a case that raises tough questions about justice, morality, and corporate responsibility. The UnitedHealth CEO case highlights deep frustrations with the American healthcare system, a system often criticized for prioritizing profits over patients. At the same time, stories of vigilantes like Robin Hood, who stand up to powerful systems, are a big part of our culture. But what happens when someone tries to act out that story in real life? Let's break it down. On December 4, 2024, Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealth, was fatally shot in New York City. Days later, Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old, was arrested in Pennsylvania. Police say Mangione had a 3D printed gun, a silencer, and a manifesto criticizing the healthcare industry. As this is an ongoing investigation, it's important to remember that Mangione is innocent until proven guilty. However, this case has already sparked big debates about corporate ethics and justice. To understand this case better, let's explore three important questions. Should corporations follow moral rules? Is what UnitedHealth doing moral? And are individuals ever justified in taking matters into their own hands? Core Issue 1. Should corporations follow moral rules? Supporters of corporate morality argue that companies are part of society and therefore have a responsibility to act ethically. This is especially true in industries like healthcare, where decisions can directly impact lives. Consider the concept of social responsibility, which suggests that businesses have obligations beyond profits to benefit society. Isn't it reasonable to expect healthcare companies to prioritize people's well-being? We've seen cases where corporations took ethical stances. For example, during the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 1990s, some pharmaceutical companies worked to make medications more affordable in developing countries. These actions may have cost profits in the short term, but built trust and goodwill. Critics of this view believe in shareholder primacy, the idea that a corporation's main duty is to maximize profits for its shareholders. From this perspective, asking corporations to follow moral standards can create conflicts with their legal obligations to investors. Does it make sense to hold businesses accountable for ethical goals that might contradict their financial goals? Core Issue 2. Is what UnitedHealth doing moral? Supporters argue that denying certain claims is part of managing costs to keep healthcare accessible for as many people as possible. This aligns with utilitarianism, a philosophy that focuses on achieving the greatest good for the greatest number. In a system with limited resources, isn't it necessary to make difficult choices to sustain operations for the majority? During the early days of organ transplants, hospitals often had to decide who would receive a life-saving procedure. While painful, these decisions were made to maximize overall benefit in a resource-limited environment. Critics argue that these practices are exploitative and leave vulnerable populations without care. Many point to cases where patients were denied coverage for life-saving treatments. For example, in 2018, public backlash grew against an insurance company that denied cancer treatment for a young child, sparking debates about ethics in healthcare. If healthcare companies prioritize profits over lives, can we really call it healthcare, or is it just another business? Core Issue 3. Are individuals justified to take matters into their own hands? Supporters of Mangione's actions might argue that when the system fails repeatedly, individuals have no choice but to act. This connects to vigilante justice, the idea that people take action outside the law to address perceived wrongs. Throughout history, figures like Harriet Tubman defied laws to fight injustice. When institutions fail, doesn't morality sometimes demand direct action? Critics warn that vigilante actions can destabilize society. This aligns with social contract theory, which suggests that individuals agree to follow laws to maintain order and security. If everyone bypasses the legal system to pursue their own sense of justice, wouldn't that lead to chaos? Consider the case of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, who believed modern systems were oppressive and justified violent actions to fight back. While his manifesto raised philosophical questions, his actions caused immense harm and didn't achieve meaningful change. Does violence ever truly solve systemic problems, or does it just create more pain and division? This case highlights the need for reform in the U.S. healthcare system, but reform is a huge challenge. It involves balancing government regulations, private companies, and public access to care. How can we create a system that's fair, efficient, and sustainable? Of course, solving these problems goes far beyond this one case, and we can't cover all the challenges here. However, these are issues we'll dive deeper in future videos. For example, how do we address the ethical dilemmas in healthcare without dismantling the entire system? In conclusion, we've discussed whether corporations like UnitedHealth should follow moral rules, whether their practices are ethical, and whether individuals are justified in taking justice into their own hands. These are tough questions with no easy answers. What do you think? Can corporations balance profit and morality? Are vigilantes heroes, or do they cause more harm than good? Share your thoughts below. We want to hear from you. Let's approach these discussions with an open mind and a commitment to respectful dialogue. Vote in our community poll and join the conversation in the comments. Remember to keep it respectful. Every perspective matters. For more balanced discussions of today's toughest issues, subscribe to Politics Explained. Here, we're all about being unbiased, unfiltered, and understandable.